Yo, what is good, everybody? Happy Black History Month. We're here, second day of Black History Month. We had two. You can put up the fist too, man.
Yeah,
You can put up the
yeah, yeah. You
fist
already
too.
know. Yeah,
you,
yeah.
can, you
Look,
know,
look,
be
look.
ready.
We all come from somewhere.
That's
Go look
right.
at the
And you know,
history. Go look at the
and,
history of Puerto Rico, bro.
and when it's
You know?
Hispanic Heritage Month, you know I will be also
That's
putting up
right.
the fist and waving the flag and doing the thing that we people from the Caribbean Sea do. You know,
That's
you know
right.
how
For
that
for
goes.
half of September and half of October. Yep.
Half of October. Yes. They give them parts of 2 months. Anyway, Dexter Henry, Bryan Fonseca here, A Hard to Tell podcast, episode 233. We thank you for joining us. We got some things to talk about. Since the last time we've been on here, when we had our man Abate Isles record with us, I just saw his show this weekend for his album, which is really good. Check that out, End Motion, if you haven't heard it. And I saw Abate play at City Winery. It was a very dope show. Really happy to see. A little disappointed we did not get to see AZ come out, but I heard the reasons behind that and then understood. That's a topic. That's a topic for later. I didn't get to see the AZ come out, but it was still a great show. Good times. A lot to talk about. Before we get into stuff, we're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes, how some of y'all out there be hating on him, which is ridiculous, and then putting up a shrine for Joe Burrow, which I can't stand, and Bryan couldn't stand either.
Which you did a video on.
I did a video
New
on,
York Post
and
this week.
And I've been getting a lot of interesting comments on Instagram. Woo! Let me tell you what, it's Black History Month and the racism is coming out straight. They're just like not even trying to hide it.
White History Month was trending on Twitter today. Did you see this?
Oh, no, I did not see this. What?
I didn't go through the hashtag.
Why
it was trending, and I was just like, all right, here we go.
Oh, here we go. White History Month, when it's like white history is everyday history. Y'all don't need
to be fair, I didn't know if it was like white people saying, why isn't there a White History Month? Or was it just black people like making fun of like playing with the joke or whatever?
Playing with the joke about how they always be like, well, what about us? Why don't we have this? Why isn't there a WET, not instead of a BET? I've literally heard that before. Like somebody's literally
I had to. White entertainment television. I'm like, Fox, bro. What do you mean?
every other channel. I don't understand it. Every other channel. How about that?
InfoWars. Censor.
Yes. Yeah. So we got that to talk about. Kicking off Black History Month. 2 black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. NBA trade deadline is a week away today from us doing this. But first, we got to talk about Bryan, because Bryan has a new show that is coming out this month. I'm excited for it. He's doing it with the homie Chantel Shand. It is called The Mandatory, but I'm not going to speak on it. I'm going to let Bryan tell y'all about it because I think the show's really dope. The trailer's out now. Go check that out. Bryan, tell people what this show is going to be about, what they're going to get. I'm excited for you with this venture because we've been saying this for years, people. We've been saying this for years about Bryan. This is him leaning all the way into violence. This is leading him all the way into violence, and I love it. Tell the people what it's about.
So what we're going to be doing weekly is a show called The Mandatory, and the name, real quick, just to explain that. Double meaning. One, in boxing, if you're the number one contender for a title, you're often like the mandatory challenger, and then the sanctioning body, the WBC, the IBF, whoever it is, determines that you're the mandatory challenger for this title, whatever the case may be. So it's like a play on words in that regard. And one of the only plays on words that still exists, because Lord knows people have taken all of them, especially in NBA podcasting. And also we want it to be mandatory for you to listen to the show if you're a boxing fan. So there you go. Boxing, betting, occasionally drift off into Lord knows what, but those will be the main focuses on the show. Occasional MMA, perhaps even wrestling around WrestleMania season. Who knows? Interviews, analysis, all those things once a week. And 2 distributors is the important part, right? The audio, part of the Fan-Sided Podcast Network. Shout out to them. They're going to be carrying the audio for us wherever you get podcasts. And then the video component is going to be on our YouTube channel. Follow The Mandatory with Bryan and Chantel on YouTube. The Mandatory TKO. That's The Mandatory TKO on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And Fight Hype. If you know boxing, you know Fight Hype. 1 million subscribers and counting on YouTube, more than that. They're going to be producing clips of the show as well, particularly from interviews and other things. So shout out to Fight Hype. Shout out to Fansided. Shout out to Chantel. We're going to be starting this very soon within the next couple of weeks or so. We're working on lining up some guests that we can have and hopefully growing to show the show throughout the year and beyond, because Chantel and I have been planning this literally for months. So we're glad that it's finally around the corner.
Yep, I knew about this, the planning of this for months. I talked to Bryan a lot about this, the name, the logos.
About leading all the way in.
Decisions that Bryan talked to me about through this process, and I was somebody who was strongly encouraging him to do this. Bryan brought this idea up to me, I don't know, it was sometime last summer, like you said.
Yeah. It had to be July, August or something.
July, and Bryan brought the idea up to me, and we were having a conversation actually about something else. But I was really saying to Bryan, you know, as people know, and I've talked about this with Bryan, and Bryan's been on me with the post and SNY and stuff like this. Bryan is one of the leading voices in combat sports. I truly believe that. I'm not saying that because he's my friend and my co-host here. I'm saying that because I truly believe that, and I believe we have to empower people when we know they're doing good. And one of the things I told him was leaning all the way into what he does with combat sports, particularly boxing. And Chantel, who's also just a dope sister, and somebody I've become really good friends with her in the last year and does great work. Her too. I thought the combo was just absolutely brilliant for the both of them to do it. They both also have the betting component to it, which I think is great. And that's why I'm excited for it. And I think y'all should check it out. You know what I mean? It's gonna, as somebody who's a fellow boxing fan, but nowhere near as loving the violence as Bryan, I'm gonna be plugged in and watching the two of them. So, support it. This is also important, and I would like to say this because it is Black History Month, and for people of color and people of color creating content, it's important that we have a Black woman and a Latino man doing this together, talking in a sport where there are a lot of people that look like us in the sport. And so that stuff matters. And so I'm happy for the mandatory for that reason. So let's go. Mandatory season, man. Another show for Bryan. We stay busy. This is what we do here.
Yeah.
we
as we were talking about off air, there's probably going to be more coming. So hopefully people don't get tired of this shit.
I think there's more coming on. There's more coming on both sides. Bryan and myself, I think it's some things this year. So it's going to be a very good 2023. I can't talk. And it's off to a good start. But speaking of off to a good start, some of y'all out there, man, Bryan, before the AFC Championship game, we don't super talk a lot of football on here, but for this, we got to. Before the AFC Championship game, man, I couldn't stand the conversation that was going on. And I would like to be clear about this, because this stuff was happening not only from people, from fans. This was happening in the media too, okay? People just not giving Patrick Mahomes the respect I thought he deserved. This was a guy who, before last weekend, had been to 4 straight AFC Championship games, had played in 2 Super Bowls, had won 1, lost 1. In my eyes, easily the best quarterback in football. I don't think there's any doubt about it. But all this talk was, he lost 3 games in a row to Joe Burrow. 2 of them were in the regular season. Who cares, right? And then it's like Joe Burrow's the next best thing. And I don't dislike Joe Burrow. I'd like to be clear about that. I actually like Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is really good. He actually might be the second best quarterback in football. I'm just saying, Mahomes is here. For those listening, I'm raising my hands way up, and Joe Burrow's here. It's a little bit of a level below. But we don't have to anoint Joe Burrow. Some people say Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in football. Yes, people have said this on live TV. People have actually said this. Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in football. And Bryan, I don't know about you, but I feel like these people are doing too much. What are we doing here? What is going on? Like, why do we have it's? And I feel it's unfair to Joe Burrow, too. Like, I'm actually being fair on that. I think it's unfair to Joe Burrow to elevate him to this level of hype. And then I was at work. This is the last thing I'll say. Probably. Then I was at work on Sunday, and man, I've never seen so many Cincinnati Bengals fans in my life. Like, seriously, I know one Cincinnati Bengals fan. Shout out to the one of my older mentors and former pastor, Mr. Jeffrey Broadnack. Shout out to him. He's a big Cincinnati Bengals fan. But outside of, and he's from Cincinnati. Outside of that, I don't know many Cincinnati Bengals fans. But man, people were really rooting for Burrow and against the Chiefs, and I didn't get it. And when I asked people that I was talking to at work, I'm tired of seeing Mahomes win. I'm tired. We want to see somebody new. I'm like, what? Patrick Mahomes is out here killing it. Y'all, no. And then the best thing happened for me. I'm rooting for Mahomes. You know why? Because I was rooting for Black history, people. That's what I was rooting for. I wanted the history that'll happen that we'll get to later. I was rooting for Black history. Yep, that's right. I was rooting for Black history. And what did we get? Patrick Mahomes on one leg, did his thing. 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. One leg, Bryan. That's how good this dude is on one leg. And you got people out here saying Joe Burrow is better. Stop it.
If you remember, I was getting pissed off about this, not in relation to Patrick Mahomes necessarily, but just the whole Joe Burrow thing last year. Because of what you know what it was. It wasn't just the rush to anoint him as next. It's also the persona building. Joe Cool, nothing bothers him. You know, he's the next Tom Brady, all the similarities that they supposedly have, whatever the case may be. That's not for me to say. I just think and then you do have people, because that's not the only instance that I've heard this. Like, why are people so quick to say like, oh, Mahomes has already like done this, that, and the third? Like, you know, we need somebody who's next. And it's like Mahomes is entering his prime around 27 years old, I think at this point, has multiple MVP awards, 5 consecutive AFC championship appearances, 1 Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl appearances now. He may win a second Super Bowl, and we're in the midst of people already being tired of that, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, right? I understand if you're a rival, if you're the Chargers, if you're the Raiders, if you're a fan of one of the rival teams, that's different. I was fucking tired of Tom Brady,
I get that.
Third year in the league, right?
Yep, that I get.
You could imagine how tired I've been ever since. Because more than half my life, honestly, he just retired, and I don't even believe it. I'm like, this is bullshit. I don't know if he's really retired, but whatever. I can't even enjoy it. And I don't even enjoy his retirement because he kind of sucks now compared to before. And I was like, I almost want him to keep playing so people could keep busting his ass. But with Joe Burrow, though, if I'm being serious, I think he's great. I think he's a strong argument for second best quarterback in the league at this moment, based on what we've seen. He ain't Patrick Mahomes, though. And I know the rush to knock Patrick Mahomes off the mountain, there is one, and there's a serious one, and people just need to get over it because this dude is awesome. And it's not like he's out here cheating. You know what I mean? I don't see what crime you would have against him, considering what he has done throughout his career and what he just did hurt in an AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I don't see it either. But what I did see on social media is interesting. It's just because the video I posted, this video, it's done pretty well on New York Post, their YouTube channel, and also it's a short, and also on my personal Instagram, and a lot of commentary on my personal Instagram, with people just making up all kinds of excuses. And I said, look, for those of you, if you're a Broncos fan, if you're a Raiders fan, if you're a Raiders fan, if you're a Chargers fan, I get it. You're going to hate your rival, just like Bryan said with the Jets and Brady. I get all that. But if you're the rest of the league, look, I'm a Steelers fan. I mean, I'm enjoying the greatness. I understand you hating a rival if he stomps you, he's great. I grew up as a Knicks fan watching Jordan give me the blues every single time in the postseason. I get all that. But for the rest of us, no, Mahomes is dope. Mahomes might be the most talented quarterback I've ever seen in my life, right? Seriously. I'm not saying that he's the best right now. I'm not saying he's the GOAT or Brady. I'm just telling you in terms of talent, I've never seen anybody do anything like Patrick Mahomes. And I'm going to argue, I'm not sure I've ever seen anybody do more with less than he's done this season. There are dudes whose names we don't even know. We have no idea what his names are. And he was on one leg and still got it out. And he outplayed Joe Burrow in that game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Some people out here talking, Bryan, about, oh, the refs handed them the game. I've heard excuses. One person told me he gets too much exposure. We see him in too many commercials. What? Who's hating on somebody because you see him in too many commercials? What does that have to do with his play on the field?
Only Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, no.
But the difference was,
you know why? Because he's not good. That's
right.
Why. That's why. You
notice you don't see them anymore. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right. You don't get those commercials if you're not good. You don't get that exposure. Now somebody said to me, oh, well, I see him too much on TV. You can turn off your TV. You don't got to watch it. Right? You don't have to do that. And I could understand that, but who cares? This man is amazing. I said it in my piece. If you're not appreciating it, you don't have to give him his flowers when he's done. Right now, what he's done in his first 5 years playing is absolutely positively amazing. He's brilliant. What he's done in raising the level of play Bomani Jones has been saying this for a while. It is Jordan-like, and I agree with that. His
and I hear a lot of people. To jump in here. I hear a lot of people who watched Jordan and who were around for Jordan, like you, like Bomani Jones, saying the same thing.
I get it. I get it's what he also does in raising the level of play, the mindset. Look at what he did on one leg. That's why I compared in that video that maybe this is the NFL version of the flu game. I know they come in a championship situation, but on one leg, that run he had at the end, the gutsy performance to still come on, man.
Or the 60 whatever point game he had. Remember when he broke his leg early? Jordan, we're talking about.
You're talking about.
Third year of his career, came back series against the Celtics. He had a 60-something point game the year after he broke his leg, or the year when he broke his leg. I thought of that before the flu game thing, just because like age and stuff. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, like we don't have to do this. And again, Joe Burrow's really good, but the way everybody's going on this, and then somebody in my comments got into the racial component of this, which I think is a factor. And of course, the person will go, don't bring race into that, because that's what those people do that don't ever have to think about race affecting their lives. They always come out, oh, don't play the race card. No, it's America, you idiot. There's always race here as a factor, and we ain't gonna do this in Black History Month. This is not the time I'm here for that at all whatsoever. But it's very interesting to me, and we'll get into this more in the significance of the two black quarterbacks, and I'll hold that. But it's very interesting to me the way I think Patrick Mahomes viewed and was so quick to prop up the next great white quarterback, that even when the black quarterback is the great quarterback and is clearly the best quarterback in this league, there has to be some way to sort of knock him down. I'm tired of seeing it. Because I don't remember here, I know people who hated Brady, but I don't remember anybody ever saying, hey, I'm tired of seeing Brady win. You remember ever hearing that, Bryan? I don't remember hearing that. Like, that's not a thing I remember ever hearing.
Nah, it'd be Jeff fans saying that. Jeff fans, Dolphins fans, Bills fans. I was saying that shit because, again, I was once we got to the mid 2000s, he already had 3 Super Bowls, I believe. And we're talking about like Madden 05, the year that they introduced the hit stick. I was trying to kill this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like in the video game. In the video game, not in real life. Not in real life. In the video game. Just want to make sure we ain't got no problems with YouTube. But because Ray Lewis was on the cover of Madden, and I only got Madden because I had NFL 2K5 and it was glitching, and then I got another NFL 2K5 and I barely played Madden 05 ever again. NFL 2K5 still the best football game ever. But when they introduced the hit stick, and I've had New England on my schedule, I got Mo Lewis, and I was like, yo, we're taking this dude out.
Your whole purpose was like blitz, 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 hit him. Got it.
And I would still lose sometimes because he was accurate as hell. His accuracy was crazy in that game. But sometimes, John Abraham, Sean Ellis, we get it done. I'm saying.
Nah, man. But I just feel like we don't have to do this. We don't have to quickly try to move. It's like we're doing this a lot in sports. When I think it's more prominent now with social media. This is nothing new, just to be clear. We're more prominent with this in social media. And I just think we have to like find what's the next thing. Like, oh, who's the next LeBron? Man, can we just let stuff be? And sometimes
the next Jordan killed how many careers in the 90s?
Right. Late 90s, early 2000s. Right. Who's the next Jordan? Sometimes we can just let stuff be and let people are and just say, hey, this person's really great at what they do. And when you see greatness, you don't have to hate on it, right? You just don't. You could just be like, this is great. Patrick Mahomes, what he has done in 5 years of playing is absolutely amazing. Like, and if you think it's crazy, like in his playoff career, if we're just talking the playoffs, he ranks first in passer rating, first in completion percentage, first in total yards per game, first in pass TDs per game, and also first in TD to interception ratio. Yo, he's literally number 1 in everything. Mm-hmm. And y'all are out here talking about you're tired of that. You're tired of seeing greatness.
By the way, that was with like Mecole Hardman got hurt. Tyreek Hill's been traded.
Yes.
Like this is, it's not like he's just spamming throws to Travis Kelce the entire game. That's not what's happening.
He's not. He's not what's happening, right? You got Juju Smith-Schuster out there. You got Kadarius Toney out there, right? Like, I'm not saying these guys are bums, but there's no number 1 receiver out there on that team. And look at the numbers he's putting up. Still threw for 41 touchdowns this year. What? Most other quarterbacks, you take away their number 1 receiver, a speed threat like Tyreek Hill, they're going to struggle. Patrick Mahomes is like, nah, I'm Jordan. We're going to keep this moving.
Yeah.
we're going to keep this moving. And that's what he did. So we got to respect that.
And shout out to Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy also, because
who doesn't? Yeah, Eric Bieniemy, who doesn't get enough love or coaching opportunities.
We're in Eric Bieniemy season. Is anyone gonna
no,
hire him this time?
Does anybody even bring up his name anymore? It's almost like they're just like, oh, we're past that now.
You know what they do? They look at the couple instances where he and Patrick Mahomes have their little arguments on the sideline. They're like, see, you know what I mean? They get Mahomes. That's where Mahomes gets the credit, by the way. Mahomes doesn't get the credit when it's Mahomes versus Burrow and they're tired of him. Then Mahomes gets the credit when it's like, oh, he got Eric Bieniemy there. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all Mahomes. That ain't Eric Bieniemy at all.
It's not an Eric Bieniemy at all. He gets no credit. Yeah, you're right about that. Wonder how that works. Yet you got coaches like Josh McDaniels that get second chances. You get Nathaniel Hackett, who couldn't manage the clock in Denver and is now offensive coordinator for the Jets. Interesting how that stuff works. What's the difference there, folks? What's the difference?
Who did Carolina just hire in place of Steve Wilkes?
I forgot who they made there. I forgot who they made their hire.
Mark Reich.
Frank Reich. Sorry, the Colts.
Dude from I'm like, how did he get another job? What the fuck? He got fired and replaced by Jeff Saturday. Steve Wilkes did a good job with absolutely nothing at quarterback.
He did.
Carolina's got some talented players under defense.
And he did a good job down the stretch of the season. He doesn't have a job. The only black coach that's been hired so far is what's my man on
Houston,
the
Texas.
defensive coordinator. Yeah, which I wanted to be like, don't take the job, man. Well, why are you taking that job? Like,
why am I blanking on his name?
I'm blanking on his name, right? The defensive coordinator.
49ers defensive coordinator. He used to play. He was
D'Amico
nice.
Ryan. Sorry.
He was nice linebacker.
Yeah, he was. And he's done a tremendous job there, and I'm glad to see him get a job. But, at being black in the NFL, you got to think about what kind of jobs you're taking. In Houston, they haven't shown to be a really strong organization there.
Eric Bieniemy also was a former running back. Not a lot of running backs tend to get head coaching jobs, unfortunately. And why is that? Because running backs are mostly black.
Yep. And the black, and you know what? You ever notice most of the times the black coaches, the black assistants, they coach the positions with the most black people, right? You don't have a whole lot of offensive line black coaches, wide receivers coaches, DBs, running backs coach, generally black, right?
It's true, and it's true because a lot of the black head coaches or a lot of the guys that they're defensive coordinators. Yep. They're almost never offensive. Todd Bowles, you know what I mean? D'Amico Ryan, who we just talked about. A lot of I think Lovie Smith also falls into this category. They're all defensive coordinators. Deion Sanders was a defensive player, and he just got to a Power 5 school. Like, the game is a game, yo.
The game's a game.
Brian Flores is another one.
Yep, we'll see the track. Brian Flores, who should have a job. If you put that Carolina job, probably could have. Man, this is for another day. Y'all ain't even trying to hide. It's Black. Y'all ain't gonna mess up my vibes in Black History Month.
He's a linebackers coach for the Steelers, I think.
He is. He's still with the Steelers and the Browns.
But he shouldn't be just a linebackers coach. That's crazy.
No, he shouldn't be. And you know why he's a linebackers coach with the Steelers? Because my coach Mike Tomlin decided to not just look out for the homie, to let y'all know y'all should be having this guy in a better position than what he is right now. Because we have the Mike Tomlins, that's how we're able to get stuff done. But y'all just be wanting to hire your friends, even when they're extra mediocre. Yeah. Anyway, y'all not gonna mess with the Black History Month vibes because we got two quarterbacks in the Super Bowl 57, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. I was excited about this, Brian. I realized
two best teams in the NFL also. That's important.
That's another
two black quarterbacks, too, right? And they're each on the best team in their conference. No doubt.
Yep.
Top number 1 seed, and all year long, Chiefs, I felt like the best team in the AFC. Some people were trying to say the Bills. I wonder why. Chiefs felt like they were the best team in the AFC. And then you got on the other side the Eagles, who were dominating in that conference. Yeah,
and I'm glad. If you take even just the fact that we got black quarterbacks, like you mentioned, I'm glad for the fact that we got the two best teams that have been there all year. I think this is going to be a fantastic Super Bowl matchup. I'm hoping that Patrick Mahomes is a bit more healthy for this, even though I still think he can win this on one leg because he's Patrick Mahomes. I do want to see him healthier. I do think it's a fantastic matchup. The Eagles are really good. We'll see if Mahomes can work his magic again. I'm rooting for the Chiefs. I do think the Chiefs could win. Something tells me they will. We'll probably get into this more next week. Something tells me they will get it done. But I do think that this is, and I think it was lost on some people. Some people, was like, man, I didn't even know this is the first time there were two black quarterbacks. Yes, we're in 2023, and it tells you a lot about how people have viewed the position, Brian, right? Like the evolution of the position. Like we are now at this time in the NFL where you could argue that 3 of the 5 best quarterbacks in the game are black, right? And the best quarterback in the game is black, as I said, is Patrick Mahomes, right? And what I find interesting, what I was thinking about this the other day in terms of the black quarterback, I think about black quarterbacks of like a generation before, even longer, like a Cordell Stewart who played in Pittsburgh, who they were trying to convert him to receiver, right? Because this used to happen for a lot of black quarterbacks. A lot, yeah. Right? They couldn't come in and play the game at the position. They would often be tried to be converted someplace else because these teams wanted to use their athleticism in that, and athleticism was connected to black in terms of playing a quarterback, and it was looked at as poor because there were all these stereotypes that the black quarterbacks were not smart enough to play the position. And this is not me just saying this. They're like people who literally said this stuff. That
Brad Smith, as former Jet fans, we saw Brad Smith, who had a really good college career in Missouri, and they never played him at quarterback in the NFL. He was a gadget player, one of the early ones. I think Antoine Randall L was an example of this. Like, there's another example. The
Steelers used to use him in options that would, he was a fine receiver, a slot receiver for the Steelers, but never got a shot, never would have gotten a shot, right? And then it seems like somewhere along the way, and you look at the way the NFL is now, is look at the white quarterbacks in the NFL that are really good, right? That are the best quarterbacks. Josh Allen,
they can run.
We talked about.
They can run.
All of a sudden now, the white running has become part of the game when it was frowned upon for black quarterbacks, right? It was like, you don't want an athletic black quarterback. He's going to get hurt. This is going to happen. We can't have it this way. But now, there's been some open-mindedness, shall we say. I don't know why it took so long. Because then you think about it, like, why did it take so long? You just say, hey, a quarterback that can use his legs is also a really valuable weapon. Even going back to Steve Young, quarterback who's white, not black, who was really dope between 1992 and 1995. People were looking at him like, wow, you run too much. People literally said that about Steve Young. And now it's almost like you can't have a quarterback if he's doesn't have the ability to be mobile. So it's a really interesting time, and why I think it's significant for 2 black quarterbacks to be here, Brian, is not just in the fact that we haven't seen it before, but also makes you think about where black quarterbacking is in the league, because now a bunch of the best quarterbacks are black.
I have a list.
There's no doubt about it. Even Jalen Hurts, who people had a lot of questions about, including myself.
Me too.
Has now upped himself into that category. Let me hear your list.
Because Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, as we established, and Jalen Hurts, you could argue Jalen Hurts is probably the best of that next crop, probably after Joe Burrow, because if you want to still put Joe Burrow in that same category. But like Jalen Hurts is one of the best young quarterbacks in the league as well. So this is from ranker.com. They just rank the best quarterbacks based off of like votes or whatever the case may be. So this is not my order per se, but just to give you a sense of where black quarterbacks are, because this is a lot different than when Dexter was a child, and even when I was a child, and even honestly when I was a teenager, because the league didn't look like this, right? Patrick Mahomes is here. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, 2 and 3, which actually I don't have a problem with it. Justin Herbert's listed here for them. No, Lamar Jackson is probably I would put Lamar Jackson at least 3rd.
I wouldn't be mad if he's 4th. He's definitely top 5.
I can put Lamar Jackson ahead of Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, and why would you question that? He won MVP.
He has an MVP. Like, people are going to say he not got it done in the playoffs. You know who's not gotten it done in the playoffs? Josh Allen, either. Yeah. But you don't hear that talk.
Yeah.
He's led the league in interceptions the last 2 years. You don't hear that talk.
I still put Lamar Jackson above him.
I'm fine
Joe
with that.
Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, you could have a debate there, right? But more body of work on Lamar Jackson, although Joe Burrow's gotten to the Super Bowl. But regardless, like, you have at the very least Patrick Mahomes in the top 5, Lamar Jackson's in the top 5. Jalen Hurts, I think, is right outside of it, but he's coming, right? And then you're going on. Kyler Murray is probably in the top 10 somewhere. Not my favorite, but
I'm not a big Kyler Murray fan.
Me neither.
There's somebody that might take over Kyler Murray that might surprise you, but go ahead.
Dude from Cleveland. I don't know if you want to mention him by name, but he black. You know what I'm
Nah, man, we can do the racial draft like Chappelle. We might delegate him someplace else. Yeah.
I think you trade Russell Wilson also. He's here somewhere. Dak Prescott. It gives you an idea, right? Like, it gives you an idea of where they are in the league. And like, these are
Dak
all
Prescott's a
guys,
top 10 quarterback for sure.
all these guys are top 10, 12. Russell Wilson, yes, even still after last year, like you have to, like last year was what it was, but you have to still see. By the way, my guy Geno Smith played like a top 12 quarterback this year.
That's who I was going to say I would take over Kyler Murray.
I would too.
Listen, and here's the thing. I gave Bryan his flowers.
I kind of hope that they don't pay him like too crazy a salary, because then you can't build a team around him. Then they're going to say it's his fault. And, you know,
whatever. Yeah, you know how that's going. But I wanted to say, I didn't mean to cut you off. You know, to give you all the flowers. Geno Smith is what a lot of black quarterbacks have been waiting for, and black people have been waiting for quarterback. Not saying that he's the best quarterback, but he's now a quarterback that got to stick around long enough and now can get paid.
He's Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon, Steve Young, that would never happen to black quarterbacks. Black
quarterbacks did not get and this is the part of significance of what we're talking about in the level of as many black quarterbacks being in the top 10 to 12, as Bryan is saying. It now allows the middle class of black quarterbacks in terms of talent, when I say that, to allow to get paid and also have long careers. You didn't have a lot of black journeyman quarterbacks, right? Couple years backing up, out the league. If you didn't get it done, they were getting your black ass up out of there, okay? Mm-hmm. Black quarterbacks, I still think, are scrutinized, even despite all this, as I brought up before, at a different level than white quarterbacks, right? Like, we even lean into the Joe Burrow stuff. People be like, oh, man, look at his outfits, his swag. Hey, just a couple years ago, y'all were hating on Cam Newton, talking about he spends too much time thinking about fashion. He's not focused on football, all this other stuff. But with Joe Burrow, it's cool. Come on, we see y'all. We see y'all.
Yeah. We see. So, and by the way, that's not to mention, like, Justin Fields seemed to figure some things out toward the end of last year. Yep. You know what I mean? And I think it's an important point that you made in terms of the middle class of quarterbacks, because I'm thinking of all the black journeyman quarterbacks even now, and like Tyrod Taylor is an example, like, other than Geno Smith, that I would use. And unfortunately for him, every time it feels like he's about to get an opportunity, he gets hurt or something happens, or a team doctor punches his lung and something, it just doesn't work out. Teddy Bridgewater is somebody who exists today who might not exist in another generation, who I think could actually start on a few teams. You know what I mean? But that's another story for another day. So, you know, back then there wasn't a lot. Like, Quincy Carter hung around for a little bit, but there weren't a lot of people. And then you also have and the king of this category. Salute to Josh Johnson. Man, clap it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, salute to Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson is a Black History Month legend.
We need to interview this dude, because it's like, what it is about him. What I don't know what it is about him that he's just out here just like always, you know, he's the best freelancer. He's the best freelancing athlete of all time. That's what Josh Johnson is.
Yo, shout out to Josh Johnson. Josh Johnson's still picking up game checks. He's still getting on rosters. People just like, hey, I need a fourth quarterback. Yeah, we call Josh Johnson. Listen, man, that's the real progress. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm glad we talked about this, because the progress is so much more than just, it matters that Mahomes and Hurts are here and playing against each other. And no matter what, black people, we're going to win, because we're going to have a black Super Bowl quarterback champion in a couple of Sundays. Mm-hmm. So that's going to happen. But it does matter in what we're seeing in the level of talent being raised. And also, I just think better for the game, we're starting to see coaches, like I said, well, white quarterbacks too, you got to have some mobility. The guys we mentioned in the top, whether it's Allen or Burrow or Justin Herbert, who are all dope, right? You got to have some mobility now. And so it's like, you even think about it too on the other side, y'all were sleeping on white quarterbacks who probably had some mobility that weren't also getting opportunities, because that was the black way to play quarterback, and it was bad. So white quarterbacks who had some athleticism, they weren't getting the same shots too. And it's so ridiculous what we've done with race and bias and how people want to say it doesn't matter. It does matter in things like this.
And you brought up the money point. Two of the biggest free agents this year, black quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Geno Smith, both about to get paid. Obviously, Lamar Jackson probably a lot more, hopefully not just a franchise tag. But, you know, both of them are going to make a healthy 8 figures a year. And probably in the case of Lamar Jackson, you know, I think he wants to get halfway to 9 or something close to that. So shout out to them. And look, I'm excited for the Super Bowl. I actually been leaning Chiefs. I don't know how I'm going to bet, but like,
I don't know yet.
I've been leaning Chiefs the entire way. I have a harder time not seeing Patrick Mahomes holding up the trophy than I do seeing it. So that's just how I'm feeling right now, at least.
You know why? Because Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the National Football League, folks. That is it. Blackity black. Happy Black History, y'all. All right, let's talk some NBA. I want to talk to you because you and I had a phone conversation the other day, and we were talking about some NBA trades. We were talking about the Heat and the Knicks.
One of my favorite times of the year is an NBA fan.
Favorite times of the year, huh, Bryan? Mm-hmm. Favorite times of the year. I asked Gerard this yesterday when he was on the exchange with me, and it's like, do you think this is going to be an active trade season, or you think it's going to be kind of like mid? Because it's interesting to me because with the play-in tournament now, you now got teams who think they might be like playoff teams, but they're not. So I never know how the trade season is going to go, which is interesting because it brings for this good chatter that we're going to have in the next week or so. What do you think? You think it's going to be active or it's going to be? Yeah.
I hope it's active. I'm not sure. I feel like a lot of teams are playing chicken and they're just waiting for something besides the Rui Hachimura deal, which is a good one by the Lakers, by the way.
I actually do like that trade.
Besides that, I think they're waiting for like who's going to like one of these fours, right? Because I feel like a lot of teams, the Bucks, the Suns, the Nets, the Heat, the Knicks, the teams that we're expecting to be active, I feel like are looking for the same type of player. So there are going to be a few teams disappointed, maybe. They're looking for size, shooting, and defense in one player. I talked about this in a New York Post video yesterday, recapping the Nets and Celtics. Because the Nets are looking for this. So are the Heat, so are the Bucks, etc. Size, shooting, the Hawks too, probably. Size, shooting, and defense in one player. Or at least two of those three things. Size and shooting in particular, right? And I think that when a Bojan Bogdanovic or OG Anunoby or Kyle Kuzma or John Collins, one of them moves, maybe, but there's a world where none of them move. And then it's kind of like, I don't know what happens here. Fred VanVleet, like, I'm not sure. Like, Toronto's one of those teams, like, people are kind of thinking, hey, maybe because they underachieved this year. Because I thought they were going to be a playoff team, and it's not looking that way. They've taken a step back, in fact. And it's like Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby. There's a world where they just keep all them dudes, right? I don't know if that's a smart move long-term, because I feel like they're a team like OG Anunoby, I could see that being in the offseason instead. So I don't really know. I know like there are teams that are going to do something. I don't know of what. Like I think at the very least, the Knicks have one or two things they could do with potentially Fournier's contract, with Derrick Rose's contract. Is Obi Toppin? Are they going to move off him now that Julius Randle's like playing well and they could probably get something for him? I feel like at a minimum, Cam Reddish is out of there. Just like how I feel like in the case of
Cam Reddish is out of there.
I feel like in the case of Miami, at the very least, Dwayne Dedmon's out of there. Duncan Robinson, you'd want to move him, but like that might be a little more challenging. A little difficult. Yeah. If you attach a first-round pick, then you could do it a little easier. They've been hesitant to do that.
But what are you getting back? Right.
And then with Milwaukee, it's like they don't have a lot of first-round picks to play with, and is like if you're combining salary, it's going to be Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, and you're going to have to throw in Marjan Beauchamp. And is that going to be enough with a 2029 first to get something like a serious upgrade? Is that the Jay Crowder package? Like, so I think things are going to happen, but this is kind of unpredictable. But I feel like a lot of teams, because they're trying to win now, because not just to play in, but it's wide open. I have no idea who's going to win the title this year. I think the favorite is Celtics versus Nuggets, but anything can happen, especially in regards to injuries and the way the league is going. Guys just get hurt. Teams just get lucky and unlucky. It is what it is. So I think a lot of teams, because they're in the mix, they're going to have to do something, and they will. I don't know what the magnitude of these deals is going to be. I have my dream scenarios, but
we'll get to the dream scenarios in 1 second, because I tend to agree with what you're saying, and I'm not sure how active certain teams are going to be. Like I was kind of thinking this through with the Knicks yesterday, and I'm actually in this. It's like, what do you want to do if the Knicks are interested? The Heat are interested team. Our teams play tonight, so that's very interesting. Tonight, the Knicks and Heat play. I should put a little bet on here with Bryan. We should do something.
That's why we're doing this early, by the way.
Yeah, so because then I also have to be on.
I'll be doing a recap with New York Post, by the way, after the game.
So I will be on the Nick of Time show after the game for that as well too. So I'll be doing that. So
I think we follow each other on Instagram.
Yeah, shout out to Nick and Top Show, my man Lee Escobedo on there. I'll be on that and chilling with those guys post game show. But both teams are interesting in this because I've been thinking more with the Knicks, and this might be unpopular with Knicks fans, right? Do we need to do something? Is there something that really moves the margins for the Knicks? Right? I've heard OG Anunoby, but if they want 3 first, nah, chill, son. We ain't got to do that. I'm not sure there's a move out there. I think there are more things in terms of what Bryan is saying, right? Maybe you're able to move off of Fournier's contract, although I think that's more likely to happen to the offseason. Maybe Reddish, you're selling on him. It's kind of known he wants out. The timing of his comments with his agent coming out the other day, I think is very interesting, or whatever. He's been out the rotation. I think maybe moving off of him. I think Obi is one because I don't think you're going to keep him and quickly. One of those guys are going to go. But it's interesting for these teams. Like, what are you going to get and how much does it move the margins for you, right? Like the Knicks, you tell me what you think about this, Bryan. The Knicks are not, it's like, I don't know what trade they can make that's going to put them, into the top 4 in the East. If they got OG Anunoby, who's a player I really like, actually, does that really move the needle for the Knicks at anything? I'm actually going to say no. I just don't think they're at that place yet. Now, I think OG to like Memphis would be dope. I think that's a great trade for him, a place for him to land. I don't really know. I'm going to give you one with the Heat that I didn't think about until I saw this somewhere the other day, and I didn't even ask you this because I want to save it for the show. I'm not sure how you're going to feel about this. I think it's known the Heat want to probably upgrade a point guard if they could, right?
It's going to be tough to do during the season, but
I don't see right. It's hard. What about D'Angelo Russell to Miami?
No, absolutely fucking not. I've said this already. I've been on multiple 5 on the floors, and I've literally asked the question word for word: why do Heat fans have a hard on for D'Angelo Russell? And I like D'Angelo Russell. Covered him for a couple years with the Nets. He's just not a fit over there. The way Eric Spoelstra wants to play basketball, no, it's just not going to work. And I don't get this. I don't get why would you trade Kyle Lowry for D'Angelo Russell? Because like Kyle Lowry's contract doesn't expire as soon. D'Angelo Russell's an expiring contract, and it's like, okay, what's the point of that? Free agency? Who are you getting in free agency? Nobody makes it to free agency anymore. The second largest deal last year to change teams in free agency, the second largest free agent signing was PJ fucking Tucker. Okay, it was PJ Tucker to the Sixers. The first one we obviously know was Jalen Brunson. And that's worked out because I think Jalen Brunson is an all-star. PJ Tucker's getting booed by Sixers fans.
We'll see tonight.
So I don't think it makes a lot of sense. D'Angelo Russell doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think
do you have a dream trade for the Heat? Do you have a dream trade for the Heat that you want to see go down?
Yeah, OG Anunoby is the best player that would fit next to Jimmy and Bam of the guys.
Oh, I think he's a great fit. I think he's a great fit in Miami.
The problem is, like, he gets hurt a lot, and 3 first. Like, I'm like, look, at some point, we have to come back down to earth on this because, like, the Rudy Gobert trade, and even trades before that with Paul George, Donovan Mitchell, like, but the Rudy Gobert trade in particular, like, that is that, like, we need, and it's not going to happen between now and next week's trade deadline. We need to get to the point where it shouldn't take 3 draft picks, 4 draft picks for a role player, and then 6 for like a star. It's out of hand. There has to be a regression to the mean at some point.
I agree that it is out of hand, and I do think there will be a regression to the mean. I think everything you're saying is right. The point I've always made, you remember like last summer when the Rudy Gobert trade happened, everybody was like, oh, well, if Rudy Gobert costs this, then Donovan Mitchell has to cost this. And my thing is, just because somebody was dumb enough, yes, you were in Minnesota.
New owner syndrome, Minnesota.
Right. To pay this amount for Rudy Gobert, who is definitely not worth probably the haul that he was given for him.
He's proving that every day and proving me right, by the way.
And nor did I think that was a good fit. Right. It doesn't mean that I think Rudy Gobert is a bad player because I don't. I just don't think that was a good fit that made sense for that haul. However, after that, you looked at what Cleveland gave up for Donovan Mitchell, which was 3 firsts and 3 players. One who's probably going to actually make an all-star team now in Lauri Markkanen. And it was a fair and good trade, in my opinion, because they had enough assets. And so every trade situation is different, which is my point. But this isn't the Fat Joe here. Yesterday's price is not today's price, right? But just because yesterday's sucker doesn't have to mean they're today's sucker. Somebody paid a sucker price for it doesn't mean they're going to have to do that again. And I think that's what we're talking about with the evening out. Even DeJounte Murray, I thought was a lot in 3 first rounders for him. That they gave up. And word on the street is Travis Schlenk thought that was a lot and didn't want to give up that much in the deal for that. And I think he wasn't wrong. And I like DeJounte Murray. 2 first rounders, yes. 3, no. Kind of the same way I feel about OG Anunoby. 2 first rounders, sure. 3, yo, you tripping, son. They doing you, but Masai is known to.
I'm protecting one of those first rounders, by the way. Like I don't want to just like one of them's got to be like lottery protected, top 10 protected, something. Like 2 unprotected first for OG Anunoby, who hasn't played. I think he hasn't played 50 games in like 3 or 4 years or something like that.
Right. Like, and I like him. I like him a lot as a player. I think he's a player that really can help a team. A great 3-and-D player. Any other before we get out of here because we gotta wrap up. Any other trades that you want to see go down? Do we think? Because I can't really call it, man. Like I think Bones Highland's going to get moved because he's beefing with the coaching staff out there. I think that will happen. I do think he'll get done. I don't know about Boyan Bogdanovic.
He'd be perfect for the Houston Rockets.
Another jacker on the Rockets? That's what they need? Okay.
I look, man, these Lou Williams spawns, I'm cool. It is what it is. They're exciting when it goes right, but when it's not
in the right situation, like,
it's just not for me.
It's not for the guys.
I think Emmanuel quickly, I'm proud of him because I thought he was falling into that, and I feel like he's actually gotten a little better as a playmaker and more willing as a defender. So I think he's shedding that to the point where now I'm kind of like, because before I was like, he's not the type of guy you extend, and he wasn't. Now I'm like,
I don't want the Knicks to trade him. Actually, I think the Knicks need to keep him. Now, I always liked his intangibles, though he's a winning player, but I did also give him the Lou Williams comp. And now, like you said, the on-ball defense is really good. I've been very impressed, despite being an undersized guard. The shooting's actually gone down a little bit, but it's the playmaking that's gone up too, where I'm just like, no. I like this guy as a 6-man for us. He's a good 2-way 6-man. Might be undersized, but I like him.
And I can see him closing a playoff game. Jalen Brunson, Emmanuel quickly, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and ideally Mitchell Robinson, who's hurt again, but was playing well this year defensively.
Really good. Yeah, dream trades. Go.
Okay, so I want John Collins on the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yo, you brought this up in the group chat the other day. I like this. I think it's good. I think it makes. But what would you give up if you're the Thunder?
That's the problem. They don't have a lot of those mid-tier contracts you could trade. Lou Dort is the main one.
Lou Dort's the main one.
You're not trading Lou Dort, right? Even though I don't love Lou Dort, but like you're building a team. He's on an affordable contract. It makes sense. It's just conceptually, though, with John Collins there, you could play him with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's on a long-term deal, and it's like at Oklahoma City, at some point you got to have players, right? So you could like there are salaries you could throw in with like a Darius Bazley, Mike Muscala. You're just going to need like legit 4 or 5 of them dudes in order to make it work. And I don't know what's Atlanta going to do. They're probably going to waive a couple of them or whatever, but like they can get maybe a couple firsts out of it, 2 firsts, and all that matching salary. I feel like Atlanta, like maybe 2 firsts at this point. I don't know how much value John Collins still has. Maybe it's 1 first.
I don't know because everybody knows they've been trying to trade him.
Right, but it's like Oklahoma City for me is a spot. It's like I think that'd be great for him as well. He'd be, I feel like a little happier with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, perhaps. I mean, look, he played.
I see what you're doing there.
He plays heliocentric ball as well, but I think if he has, I think that'll be the case less so. I mean, Josh Giddey handles the ball a good amount too, so not
who I love. I love Giddey.
Yeah, so I'm seeing a future where it's like, can it be Josh Giddey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, Chet Holmgren, John Collins? And it's like, shit, that's a team that could be a top 6 seed in the Western Conference next season, maybe. I don't know about Chet Holmgren's health. I'm very worried about that. But, we'll see. John Collins, that's one. And then I was trying to figure out with the 4s that we were talking about, where they could go.
Yeah.
Boyan Bogdanovic, I'd like him in Milwaukee. I don't know if Detroit's saying that they might keep him now, and he's signed for another couple of years, so it makes sense,
couple years,
right?
2-year extension, yep.
But like Milwaukee needs some sort of shot creation that isn't Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday when Chris Middleton is healthy, right? And it's just Pat Connaughton, Javon Carter, Grayson Allen. You're seeing a lot of them this year. And unfortunately, I think Marjon Beauchamp has to functionally be a first-round pick here. So, like, is there a deal where they can do like Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, Beauchamp, maybe a first-round pick? Is that enough for Bojan Bogdanovic? They also have a bunch of second-rounders. Can they throw one or two of them in there? Like, I'm not sure. I think Miami's a team that's interested in Bojan Bogdanovic. I don't think Bojan by himself makes a lot of sense there because he can score, yes. He ain't rebounding or playing defense. And you need somebody at the
four.
four.
On the defense.
Right. You need somebody at the four who could do multiple of those things, right? Or a backup five. If you could get a big that could also play some backup five. For Miami, I don't think Bojan is who I'd go for first unless it's Bojan and Nerlens Noel. Then that would make more sense. Or if you instead go like, because the trade package for me for Miami is Duncan Robinson's contract, Dwayne Dedman's contract. If that's not in a separate deal, you could put it here, but then you're going to have to attach like 2 firsts probably to get somebody, unless it's like the Clippers and Marcus Morris, for example.
Yeah,
and then it's like about something else.
And then
if you're going to send Kyle Lowry somewhere, by the way, it's the Clippers because
that would make sense.
They need Kawhi familiarity and they want a point guard, and it's like you can do Lowry for Marcus Morris and Luke Kennard and be like, okay, that actually makes sense for both teams because that 4 spot is super cluttered over there with the Clippers. They probably don't want Luke Kennard's long ass contract, and Miami could flip Duncan Robinson and Dwayne Dedman in separate deals.
I wonder if Clippers would want to give up Kennard. Kennard's been good for them, man. I don't know. It's interesting, but but they do have to declutter some things. That's the point. To that point, and before we wrap, I'll say with the Knicks too. For the Knicks, to me, their trades that they make is kind of what you were saying before. If they do something for me, it's about decluttering. It's not necessarily about adding somebody that can get you next level. Now, if you could get a Cam Reddish and Isaiah Hartenstein to Utah, and you could bring back a Malik Beasley and like a Jared Vanderbilt along with some, a pick or two that you give them, that's something I like to do where it like keeps guys in the culture of your future and you declutter a little bit. Although I'm very fine with Jericho Sims being the backup center because I'm a fan of him.
Yeah.
Which is why I think the Knicks, that's what I think the Knicks need to do. They need to declutter, stick with the young guys that they're definitely gonna play and what the core is. Because the problem with the Knicks is they're still one of the teams. They ain't got that dude. They just don't have that dude that's gonna take them over the top. They're not a bad team. They're a good team. I think they'll be them and Miami will battle for the 6, 7 spot for the rest of the year, and we'll see. They have 4 games to play. These games are going to be big. And hopefully the Knicks take care of business in New York against Heat. This is nice. I get a Knicks Heat game in February that I care about again, where I can not like the Heat again. You know what? I'll be tweeting at our man Greg Sylvander tonight. This is I like this. This is good. I like the Knicks have some meaningful games. I'm actually pumped for tonight's Knicks Heat game.
Greg's on a work trip, so we'll see if he answers this week. I have one more trade.
Go ahead, and then we sign off.
I would like to see. I mentioned Fred VanVleet to the Clippers already.
No, we didn't say that, but yeah.
I just think Lowry or Fred VanVleet, I could see going to the Clippers.
I can see that.
I could see them liking Lowry because they wouldn't have to give up a first round pick.
You wouldn't. VanVleet,
you might even get a first round pick.
Yeah.
VanVleet, you're trading at least 1 first, maybe.
At least one.
I would like to see, this is one I thought of, and I mentioned this on Sports Grid earlier this week because we ran through some of these trade scenarios. In terms of teams I have circled that need to do something, Dallas is up there. And this is not one I thought about like right away, but when I sat and thought about it, I was like, look, man, I know this dude is undersized, but goddamn, he could fucking help next to Luka Doncic. And I'm looking at that Charlotte Hornets roster, and I'm like, bro, if you want to throw Tim Hardaway and Reggie Bullock or Dwight Powell somewhere and like actually like maybe attach, you're gonna have to attach 1 or 2 first. But there's a deal where you could do Hardaway, Bullock, and it probably have to be 2 first, one of them protected for like Terry Rozier, who's on a manageable contract for a few years, and an expiring Kelly Oubre. I think that's something I would look into. because Rozier can play the Jalen Brunson role differently than Jalen Brunson, right? But in terms of being a guy who could come off the bench and score, light it up, he's going to shoot more threes than Jalen Brunson. Probably not have the ball quite as much because Luka Doncic is going to be there. But Rozier, Dinwiddie, and Doncic, that to me is pretty nice. Now, defensively, it's not. But
it's not.
That's why I wouldn't want to trade Dwight Powell. But
or Dorian Finney-Smith.
Or Dorian Finney-Smith. No, not doing that. But those three guys with Dorian Finney-Smith and Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber when he comes back, and obviously Christian Wood, if he's still there, I assume he will be. That's interesting to me. Josh Green's still developing, But
I think my problem with the Mavericks, real quick before we go, and even on that trade, is they need a co-star for Luka, and they don't have that.
Yeah,
and
I don't know how they're getting one, though.
I don't know how they get one, and I'm not sure they get one at this trade deadline. I'm really not sure. They're a team I think you might have to wait till draft night or the offseason. I think they might be better standing pat at the trade deadline because they just don't have that many options right now. They just don't.
Terry Rozier's 3-point shooting is down this year a little bit, but Charlotte sucks. So
But I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to get another secondary ball handler there.
Because I can see him just moving to the corner, catching and shooting. He shoots 8 threes a game. That might go up in Dallas. I know people how they feel about small guards. Hi, Gerard, love you, bro. But I know you probably won't like this much for Luka Doncic. But in the 3 seasons before this year, Terry Rozier on 8 3-pointers a game was about 39%. And even this year, he's, averaging 22 points a game. I'm looking at somebody like that, somebody else who can really help Dallas in that way. Because it's tough. It's you have Christian Wood, you have Dorian Finney-Smith. It's are you going to get another big? Unless you trade Christian Wood, I don't think.
Unless you trade Christian Wood.
And I like Dwight Powell. I like Dwight Powell. So it's and then you have Kleber has to get minutes when he comes back. So I don't know.
When he comes back. I don't know. They need another secondary scorer. They need a co-star, a legit co-star for Luka, but we'll see. All right, NBA trade deadline a week from today. We'll be doing something after the trade deadline to break all this down. That's for sure. I don't know what we'll be doing. Some kind of NBA exchange, Ain't Hard to Tell podcast special, probably around this time next Thursday. We'll be doing something on that. Yeah. That is it for this episode 233 of the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. He is Bryan Fonseca. I'm Dexter Henry. Knicks versus Heat tonight should be a good one. Bryan's team, he tries to act like it's not his team, but they are going to lose. We are aware that they are going to lose this one. Let's go Team Knicks. They've lost the first 2 games in this homestand. They need to get the ship righted, man. They need to get the ship righted against the Lakers. We will see what they can do. Excuse me, first game of the homestand. They've only played 1. They haven't lost 2 yet. First game of the homestand they lost, so we'll see what they can do. All right, that's it. Until next time, y'all guys. Peace. Happy Black History Month. Blackity, blackity, black, y'all. Happy Black